So hello and welcome to Digital PR Uncovered with Reflect Digital. I'm Joanna Earle, Head of Content and Digital PR at Reflect Digital.
And I'm Morgan Rodway-Wing, Senior Content and Digital PR Executive at Reflect Digital.
And today we are going to be talking about the importance of seasonality in content. Morgan.
So in today's session, we're going to be talking about what seasonality is, why it's so important in digital PR and content, and how we achieve seasonal success and how you can too. So what is seasonality? What does that mean? There are three different types of seasonality. The first one being calendar-based. So calendar-based seasonality is anything from the time of year, so spring, summer, autumn, winter, to national holidays and events such as Christmas, Halloween, bonfire night, and anything that kind of follows a calendar cyclical pattern. Event-based seasonality is more specific events that happen throughout the year. They could happen more than once a year as well. They could happen weekly or quarterly. These would be more of your sporting events, pop culture events. For example, think the Women's Euros or the Met Gala. They're big, important events that happen every year. They're covered in the media cycle, but they're not necessarily related to the time of year. They could happen at any time. And industry-specific seasonality, this kind of crosses between the two, so calendar-based seasonality and event-based seasonality, but it's specific, it's seasonal events specific to your own industry. So of course this could completely differ depending on whether you're in the pet sphere, the gardening sphere, or the travel sphere. So an example of calendar-based seasonality would be around the time of year. So every year we start getting snow warnings. They can happen as early as sort of October, November. They can run as late as April. And we use this opportunity for our client, Every Paw Pet Insurance. We know that snow is an important topic for keeping pets safe every year. So we use that to prepare content in advance. We used our in-house vet, Dr. Anna Foreman, and she gave expert commentary all about how to keep pets safe in the snow. As soon as the weather app showed that there was even a hint of snow, we started outreaching, we were ready to go, and we managed to secure really top tier coverage in the likes of The Mirror, Metro, Tyler, Wales Online and various others. An example of event-based seasonality would be a more specific event such as the London Marathon. We have a Pilates client, Complete Pilates, and we have an expert, Helen O'Leary, and every year she gives commentary on not only how to prepare, how runners can prepare for the marathon, but also tips for recovery after the marathon. So we know that it's running season, there's not just the marathon going on, there's also high rocks and other sporting events, so we can prepare for that as well. That secured a really top tier piece of coverage in Runner's World, and it also led to several reactive opportunities with Stylist and Fit and Well as well. And then there's also industry-based seasonality, which we've been using for our client Whitehead Moncton.
Yeah, so every year again, the primary school offers day comes out. It's a big day in the diary, particularly for schools and for Whitehead Moncton and lawyers. So ahead of that, we got the education expert Graham Jones to share his top tips on how to prepare and appeal, for the appeal process, which is a big thing for parents with primary school children if they don't get that school place thereafter. So on the day itself, Graham ensured that his schedule was flexible to accommodate any interviews for journalists, etc. He does know the press. He's really well media trained. We've given him some media training. And he is actually a tutor in that sphere as well, so he knows that world and that sector really well. And as a result, but again, one of their KPIs is very much Kent Press. So we secured a lot of coverage in the Kent area, so KMTV, KMFM news bulletins, Kent Online, and I think Kent Live as well. And prior to that, we have done a lot of coverage on like the A-level results days, GCSE results days, where he's been on the likes of ITV News as that expert as one, how to appeal, but also pre-exams, how to prepare for the exams and how to make sure you keep calm during exam season as well. So he can be a really useful expert for Whitehead Moncton. So yeah, that's really great.
And why does it matter? It all boils down to it's relevant. It makes your content relevant, your digital PR strategy more relevant. If you are going by the seasons and you're creating content about Christmas or you're creating content about the marathon ahead of it happening, then you're going to be ahead of the conversation and therefore in the conversation. If you're talking about topics that aren't particularly relevant, if you're talking about the summer in the middle of autumn, there is a time and a place for it and it's just not going to be as effective. It can also help particularly with content around personalisation. So if you're creating generic content and you're sending out some email marketing and it's generic copy, it doesn't relate to a time of year or any relevance, it probably won't resonate as well as if you start using seasonal imagery and visualisation. If someone sat there during the summer months, they want to feel fresh air, they want to feel outdoorsy, they want to feel summer vibes. If you're not giving that, then it's probably not going to resonate as well and could impact traffic and conversions. There's also a behavioural principle called the fresh start effect. So this is the idea that consumers are more motivated or more likely to engage at specific time periods in the year at the start of these time periods. This could be the beginning of the financial year, this could be the start of the year. This is where the idea of New Year's resolutions come from. If you understand this and you understand when that your consumers are more likely to be motivated and engaged, and you can create relevant content for then or ahead of time so that it's ready for that time, again, you're more likely to resonate and therefore more likely to convert. And all of this leads to driving traffic and conversions. Seasonality really can impact consumer behaviour and purchasing patterns. So if you're incorporating it into your digital PR strategy and your content, you're going to come out over your competitors. How do we know this? Why are we qualified to talk on this? So we have been working with the RSPCA animal charity. After going through a rebranding, they felt that their raffle emails had lost their fun and playfulness, and they wanted to return to that place of playfulness. They wanted to improve their click-through rates and generate more ticket sales for their raffle. So what did we do? With the behavioural and the content team collaborating together, we did an appraisal of their current existing emails and previous emails before the rebranding to identify opportunities to make them more engaging, resonate with audiences, and ultimately improve ticket sales. We did use other behavioural nudges as well, so this was complemented by other nudges such as urgency and framing, but one of the main ways that we did this was through seasonality. These were seasonal emails, so the raffles only happened once a quarter, so aligning with the different seasons. So what we did was we used seasonal language, puns and plays on words, which are one of my favourite things to come up with.
You love it.
We also contextualised impact by season, so we weren't just telling people what the impact of buying a ticket was, it was what the impact of buying a ticket was for animals at this specific time of year. And we also evoked emotion through seasonal imagery and visuals to really drive emotion and bring the point home. So here's what it looks like in practice. Here are a few examples. We appraised and delivered some copy on the spring, summer and winter raffles. So for example, we use plays on words. So 'tis the season for our winter raffle. It's giving Christmas vibes, which is very exciting. We also use Christmas and winter more as a cosy and joyful festive time of year. So your kindness is bringing comfort and joy this festive season to neglected cats like Tinks. We also use the identifiable victim effect there to specifically talk about Tinks to drive more emotion. We also talked about it in context. So thanks to the kindness of people like you, Bonnie received life-changing surgery. Now she's been rehomed with a loving family. She can enjoy long sunny walks on the beach because that's what everyone wants to do during the summer. So when that email's sent out during the summer and you've just come back from a lovely walk along the beach and you see this email, it's going to resonate. You're going to think, actually, I want that for Bonnie too. Spring means brighter days and new beginnings, making the most of that fresh start effect, and it can mean new beginnings for neglected animals as well. And we, at the bottom, is an example of contextualising impact by season. So we didn't just say £15 can help towards clinical examinations. We mentioned specifically this winter, and we didn't just say that you could get out an inspector's rescue bag, which of course you can, but it helps to save animals in freezing winter conditions. Just adding the freezing winter conditions and contextualising around the environment can really help to resonate. And how do we know that worked? Well, we achieved significant seasonal success. So these are the results for their winter raffle campaign. So we improved the conversion rate by 365%. We increased overall donations for this email by 192%, and on button one specifically, donations were increased by 313%. And a large part of that success was down to the seasonal behavioural insights that we used. So how can you achieve seasonal success for your brand or your clients? Plan out your content in advance. So seasonal is great because it's recurring. So to an extent, it can be easier to plan. I don't like to use the word easier in digital PR because often it can not work out like that, but it reoccurs. So you can create content in advance, you know when it's coming, which means you can create a content calendar with all seasonal events. Seasonality can actually inform a lot of your content calendar. We use it a lot with digital PR. When we're creating roadmaps for clients, we can plan out national awareness days that occur every year. Seasonal, for example, we have a gardening client, so we know that different plants will be planted at different times of the year. There'll be different gardening priorities at different times of the year as well. You can have a bank of expert commentary for seasonal reactive PR as well, so it's not just proactive PR. Seasonality is great for. Journalists will be looking at specific kinds of content at specific times of year, and you can prep in advance for that. It's a really good idea. Of course, they might have more specific requests that you need to be flexible and adaptable to, but at least having that core bank of commentary to start with really helps. And also, planning your content in advance allows you to outreach as far in advance as possible. We're not the only people that know about seasonality, so people will be planning in advance. Competitors can be talking about Christmas from like July and August, and it seems to be getting earlier and earlier every year. And when journalists are asking for content, they might be doing their content for May all the way back in February as well. So this allows you to outreach in advance and get ahead of your competitors. Using seasonal imagery. So this is one of my favourite things to do, is when you're writing content. If you're writing content for a specific time of year or it's timely content, if it's evergreen content, this may not be as appropriate. But for example, for digital PR campaigns or email marketing or even paid social ads, you can really use imagery for the different seasons of the year. So in spring, you'd be thinking about fresh starts, new beginning, floral, natural. It's making me, like, I feel like my shoulders just lifted.
Oh,
it's a really
lovely.
airy, bright, hope, optimism, new start, and you can really lean on that. Because again, going back to the fresh start effect, if people feel like this is the time to do the spring cleaning, decluttering, get involved, start again, you can really lean on that and potentially impact purchasing habits. Going into the summer, I like to use the term sizzling summer, a bit of alliteration in there. It's very outdoors, warmth and heat, so travel companies, this is your time to shine. Bright, happy, vibrant colours, there's a lot of energy. The summer is more aligned with sort of extroverted behaviours as well, so I think you can have a more engaging copy, a brighter copy and a more interesting copy as well. You can also use this through emojis as well, and I think it's also associated with more active and adventure. So if you're giving examples of where someone could read this book, you'd be talking after a long walk on the beach, after going cycling, doing something active, going out somewhere, take it on holiday with you, take it camping. Whereas if you were talking about reading a book in the winter, for example, you'd be talking about cozying up in bed and hiding away and hunkering down. Moving into autumn. Autumn's a lovely time, my favourite time of the year. It's a time for transformation. You have earthy hues, the oranges, browns, cool, crisp, chilly. And it's really a time for reflection. It's the longer, colder nights. I think people really it's the time of the harvest, so people really start to gather themselves ready to hibernate for the winter. And I think it's a really nice place of transition. I also think it's a really great time for seasonality because sometimes the start of autumn can almost be like an extended summer. So you could still get a bit of the late summer content, but also if it's really cold, it could be an extended winter. And then going into the winter months, I think winter is particularly great for seasonal imagery because I think there's two ways that you can play it. So you can have the cold, icy, dark hibernation, the snow, the frost and the rain. That's particularly great for any travel or gardening or sort of lifestyle publications. But the other side of it is also about creating warmth and how you can create warmth through your copy. People don't want to be cold. People don't want to be reminded that it's dark outside. They want to be reminded of comfort, joy, fires, coziness. And it's made me excited for Christmas just thinking about it. And keep it relevant. So you don't need to jump on every single seasonal trend relevant to your brand. There will be a lot of trends relevant to your brand. There will be a lot of seasons relevant to your brand. You don't need to jump on them all. It can actually dilute your impact. If you're trying to outreach every single awareness day that aligns, where's the hook, where's the point, where's the impact? And journalists will pick up on this. If you're trying to shoehorn a campaign or an idea specifically into a time of year just because you want the coverage, it needs to be relevant and it needs to not happen too often. Again, at the same time, not every seasonal event or trend will work for your brand. So for example, if you're a barbecue company, create content all year round, but maybe don't lean into the seasonality in winter and instead save that for the summer, because active adventure outdoors is probably going to be much more effective. And also, it's just as important to think about how you're using seasonality, not just whether you want to use it or not. Always monitor the news cycle, consumer trends, and internal data. So if people are talking about a specific event, but they're talking about one angle, is there an opportunity to talk about another angle that people haven't covered yet? Or is it better to talk about the same angle that is currently in the news? Both can work in different scenarios, but it's definitely something to consider. You don't just need to talk about a trend for the sake of talking about a trend. You need to have a point. And finally, you need to make sure you're aligning across channels. All of your marketing channels are just as important when it comes to seasonality, so you have to integrate it. For example, if you create a really amazing digital PR campaign around keeping pets safe for Easter, and then you don't have a blog on the website, where do they link to? Where do journalists link to? Where can people find out more information? And also, where can you carry on the thread of seasonality? It's the same with sending out an email. If you send a brilliant email, it's got lots of emotion in it, it's resonating with your audience, it's about the summer, it's made people feel really great, they feel excited, they've got the summer vibes flowing, and then they go to a really generic or boring landing page where there is not any mention of summer, or the same emotions aren't, like, they don't continue, they're probably not going to convert. So you might get a click, but you're not actually going to get conversions at the end of the day. Thank you for watching our Digital PR Uncovered series, and we'll see you next time.